Say what you will about the president. You may not like his politics. You may not like his style. But as an American, don't you kind of appreciate this kind of transparency? You know, I remember about a year ago when he first invited cameras in to watch what would normally be a closed-door meeting, and it was fascinating. It was so interesting. No president had really ever done that before. None. I mean, President Obama did it once. He allowed cameras in for a discussion on health care. But, you know, it wasn't quite the same because it was planned and all the lawmakers knew ahead of time that it was going to happen. It wasn't impromptu like that one was or today's was. So I kind of like this. I mean, I, for one, really want to know what's going on behind closed doors. And it's refreshing that someone is willing to open those doors up. Joining me right now with his thoughts, presidential historian Doug Wead. Doug, you know, look, I'm a journalist, so I always want to know. I want transparency. You're a historian. I imagine you want the same. But there are a lot of people in Washington, including Nancy Pelosi, who don't like it one bit. How come?
Yeah, well, they're not used to it. You have to be honest if you're going to be transparent. Just think, we went through the Vietnam War, and love him or hate him, LBJ lied to a whole generation of people, and Richard Nixon and others, people bled and died, and riots on the street, tanks in the streets over a war that was a lie, and now we can see it all. Well, here we have a president who's just so transparent. He opens up the files on the Kennedy assassination. Everything's out on the table. I think it's very healthy, but
very new and very different. You know, let me share with you what Nancy Pelosi had to say about this as she walked out of the meeting. So this is subsequently after the transparent openness of what those discussions were. Here she is.
I hear some of the reporters saying, Fox reporters saying, why did we not want transparency in this discussion? We didn't want to contradict the president when he was putting forth figures that had no reality to them, no basis in fact. We have to, if we're going to proceed in all of this, have evidence-based, factual, truthful information about what works and what doesn't. I didn't want to, in front of those people, saying, you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, come on. But she's happy to say it when she's not going to be challenged, right? And you heard the dig at Fox, right? Because somehow it's always Fox's fault as far as Nancy Pelosi's concerned, I guess. But look, you know, Doug, come on. If she really has issue with some of these facts and figures, why not tell him to his face? Why wouldn't she? She's going to say it when he's not there in the room to the rest of the world, as she just did.
Because she's not rehearsed. And, you know, he did use a lot of facts. You saw him rattling off all those facts about the wall. It was very impressive. And the numbers, very impressive. I've worked for 2 presidents, Trish. We scripted everything ad nauseum. We rehearsed it completely, never ad-libbed or took a chance. We just recently had the funeral of George H.W. Bush, and people brought up the Dan Rather interview. We rehearsed him 3 different ways for hours. One was a soft one was a hard one, and one was a medium one.
Did you rehearse the walking out part?
Yes, I got to tell you something funny. One day, one of the networks had a typical day at the White House, and they went all over with their cameras, and we prepared our staff. We said, all of a sudden, the lights will go out, they'll lower the camera, and they'll act like they're no longer running, but they'll still be running the tape, and they're going to ask you a question. When they do that, here's what you should say. So we were completely rehearsed and ready for everything they had.
Yeah, and this is just kind of, you know, you roll with it. Look, but that's the world today, Doug. I mean, you know, I used to work for that network that Dan Rather used to be managing editor at. And, you know, look, I'll tell you, everything there was scripted, right? Yes. Right out to the second. If you got a 10-second tag in a package, my gosh, you better not go 11 seconds. You had to time it right down to the second. Whereas look at how I'm talking to you right now. And look at the sort of, you know, the freeness, right, if you would, of television news today. That's kind of reflected in this presidency, I think, as well, where, you know, there is some reaction that's authentic and spontaneous.
It's very healthy. And you'll remember during the campaign, Hillary got some criticism because she went 270 days without a press conference. And even the Washington Post was running a daily count, day 241, day 242. So it's very healthy, but it is a high wire act. He's taking quite a risk, and I'm sure his attorneys would rather he not be so transparent.
Well, I think Americans, deep down, we all kind of like it. Doug Wead, thank you so much. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Trish.
Straight ahead, everyone. The White House has